Doncs comencem. Benvingudes i benvinguts a aquest acte organitzat per l'Institut de Neurosciències de la Universitat de Barcelona, centre reconegut com a unitat d'excel·lència Maria de Maeztu per la seva tasca impulsant la qualitat en la recerca científica i que en concret destaca per ser un dels pocs instituts del món que investiga el cervell a tots els nivells. A part d'aquesta taula rodona, que en breu començarem, també ha organitzat una exposició que podeu visitar fins al pròxim dissabte 14 d'octubre a la Facultat de Medicina i Ciències de la Salut, Campus Clínic. Es tracta de Cajal, Ciència i Art, on hi trobeu diversos facsímils de dibuixos científics d'un dels fundadors de la neurociència moderna i Premi Nobel de Medicina, Santiago Ramon y Cajal. La mostra exposa una sèrie de veritables obres d'art on s'hi percep com el pare de la teoria neuronal capta la complexitat del cervell humà. Tot seguit, amb els ponents convidats, parlarem justament del cervell, de la creativitat, de tot allò que ens fa humans, dels progressos tecnològics com la intel·ligència artificial que impacten directament en el nostre aprenentatge, en la nostra manera de pensar i de crear. And we will discuss all these issues with Carme Ruscalleda, chef and gastronomic communicator, seven-star Michelin chef at Sant Pau and at Moments Restaurants. Last July, she was awarded with an honorary doctorate by the University of Barcelona. And Pep Gatell, artistic director of La Fura dels Baus and president of Fundación Épica La Fura dels Baus. And also with Idan Segev, professor of computational neuroscience at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Welcome to this table, this round table. We are delighted to share with you this interesting debate, creativity, what makes us human. Feel free to speak both Catalan or English and English. I'll alternate between the two languages. Altres teniu uns auriculars, en el 1 sentireu tot en català i en el 2 tot en anglès. To begin, I would like to know, what is creativity for you? Idan?
There are many definitions of creativity, but of course, one aspect of it, or one main aspect of it, is that it has to be something new that was not done before. So it's not a replica of something known, but it's something new. And one ingredient there are many ingredients of creativity. It's in many times, and I'm sure we shall hear about that from the chef and so on. It's a combination of things that were there before. There were aspects of it before, but something about the connection between things that existed before, the connection in a non-trivial way makes it very new. Like, for example, E equal mc squared. So we knew that there is E for energy and m for mass and c for the speed of light, but the connection between E and mc squared, this was a great creative invention of Einstein, as an example.
Carme, ja que Idan parlava del tema de la cuina, alguns plats potser ja els sabíem abans?
Penso que està relacionat també amb un esperit inconformista d'una persona davant d'una professió. I la cuina no deixa de ser una activitat que amb constant evolució. Probablement l'home va començar cuinant i va ser un accident descobrir que hi havia un tall que queia sobre un foc, allò era més comestible, era més agradable i mira si hem evolucionat. Per tant, hi ha d'haver també un talent davant d'un fet de no estar conforme que allò es fa d'aquella manera i de tirar uns passos endavant per cercar una cosa nova. Jo estic convençuda que la creativitat és allò nou, allò que no havies tastat, allò que no havies vist, però sempre hi ha d'haver un coneixement i un esperit que t'acompanyi a cercar aquesta evolució.
I Pep, des de les arts escèniques també cuineu, oi? Parles molt de la cuina en l'art escènic moltes vegades, oi?
Bueno, la cuina com a agafar ingredients. El nostre llenguatge és molt multidisciplinar i el que fa moltes vegades que pensis coses noves són les tecnologies noves. No? Amb la cuina s'ha vist, el gran empellón que ha tingut la cuina agafant tecnologies que en principi no eren de la cuina, que s'han aportat. No? Amb el teatre passa el mateix, quan tu agafes tecnologies diferents que no has tocat mai, et donen altres maneres de veure el món. Jo sempre explico en una conferència quan ens vam comprar un sintetitzador i allò feia un soroll, era un sintetitzador sense modo d'empleo, saps? I era allò, a veure, prova error, què ens donava? Ens donava com si tinguessis una ràdio d'aquestes que no es sintonitzen bé, i tot això ens va portar a crear tot un món que no tenia res a veure amb el món simfònic que havíem estat provant. Llavors fèiem passar carrers tipus saxofons i coses d'aquestes i el bombo i platillo. De cop i volta ens vam comprar allò i allò ens va canviar la plàstica cerebral. La plàstica cerebral vol dir que ens va canviar la idea d'olors, de colors, d'espai escènic, de moviments, de personatges. Ens va trastocar totalment. Perquè quan agafes una tecnologia nova t'aporta una sèrie de coneixements inesperats. Per tant, és molt fàcil que el teu cervell se'n vagi a mons desconeguts. I això és una miqueta el que explico quan toques tecnologies noves.
Idan, what do you think about this? What do you think about this, about how new technologies can, for example, transform, change our brains?
Yes. So let me say something about our brain. It's something very special, our brain.
Yes, I know.
Yes. Because technologies can affect other brains, but the thing is that our brain is particularly creative. And the question is, of course, what makes our brain so creative in terms of the structure, the physics of the brain? Yes? What is unique about the human brain that makes it so creative? Yeah? I think that's the issue, which is actually open. There is no one solution. Nobody can tell you, no neuroscience can say it's because of this. It's a combination of many, many aspects. Certainly, the brain, any brain has to interact with the environment. So technology is part of the environment. If you develop something new, so the brain reacts to this new thing. It could be a car or a cell phone or, I don't know, ChatGPT or something. It's the environment. So every brain will relate to it, but our brain is unique in a special way, and I think the combination of several things emerged 300,000 years ago to make a unique brain, like no other brain is as creative as us. Animals are, we can later speak, there are some creativity in animals. Some animals could be considered to be a little bit creative, but the big jump is us, human, Homo sapiens. And so the question is what makes our brain so unique? And we can maybe talk about this later because I don't want to take too much time, but there are a few things that should be remembered. First of all, we have a huge number of microprocessors, neurons. I spoke about Santiago Ramon y Cajal, about the exhibition. You know that Ramon y Cajal was the first one to believe that the brain is built from separate elements. People before thought that unlike every other tissue, like the heart, that is built from cells, people thought that the brain cannot be built from cells. It's something different. It's a tissue that is different from other tissues. But no, the brain is built from neurons, and this is a new idea, a new finding by Ramon y Cajal. So there are 100 milliard. I know that in Spanish sometimes billion and milliard is not exactly the same, but it's 10, so it's a 1,000 of a million multiplied by 100. Huge amount of elements interacting. This is important for creativity, that you have many possibilities, many combination of activities, many states that emerge from many, many elements interacting. So that's one aspect that is unique about the human brain. The huge number of elements, the huge number of neurons. The other, very unique to the human brain due to the evolution, is there is a very strong connection between different brain regions. So the smell area, and the auditory area, and the visual area, and the movement area, all these regions that are not as tightly connected as in our case in other animals. And this connectivity, so signals can flow from vision to audition to movement, they flow very well because there is this, what is called the white matter, strong connectivity. So if there is something happening in the visual system, it will affect emotions, and this will affect memory, and this will affect, I don't know, smell. So, and then you can develop a concept that emerge from this connectivity of many aspects. So I like to give the idea that, let's say, this is a bottle of water. So when I say the word bottle, the word bottle, I mean visually, it has a shape visually, but it also have a taste because there is a water here, but it also have a touch. So at least when I say bottle, I need to connect 3 different aspects in my brain. The visual aspect, the touch aspect, maybe even the motor if I do this, and this cannot be done in other animals. So the symbol, that I can create symbol, a bottle, I'm saying bottle, this is the result of the connectivity. And many ideas come, of course, from the fact that we have language. And the fact that we can generate a symbol like a bottle or a glass or a face comes from this connectivity. So monkey does not have a symbol of a glass. Monkey has a visual glass. He has a touch glass. It's not the same thing. So that's part of our human creativity, the unique brain. There are other aspects, but we can discuss it later.
We will talk about this. Carme, d'on creus que prové la inspiració?
La inspiració, jo estic convençuda que hi ha un mòbil que pot ser el detonador. I estic convençuda que estem preparats els humans per la supervivència. Per tant, som nosaltres, la nostra situació, aquell objectiu i aquesta supervivència que va incorporada amb l'animal desenvolupa la creativitat. La creativitat sempre arrel d'un talent i arrel també d'una actitud inconformista. Pot haver-hi algú en la mateixa situació que actuarà d'una manera més plana, que no hi arriscarà, i en canvi hi ha qui sentirà aquesta passió per fer quelcom nou i posa en marxa, probablement és sentit de la supervivència, no ho sé, que desenvolupa una creativitat. És el que ens fa humans. Ens fa humans, fins i tot feia la comparació del llenguatge. El llenguatge pot emocionar. La poesia són lletres ben cuinades, que a vegades ja és ben bé una estrofa petita que veus, ho visualitzes. I, evidentment, la música que sents a vegades pel carrer que no l'esperaves et posa en una situació potser trista, potser molt feliç. I passa el mateix amb els sabors. També magatzemen en el nostre cervell uns sabors que jo he vist plorar algú davant d'un menjar sense voler plorar, emocionar-se, perquè retrobava aquesta emoció. Per tant, penso que la supervivència hi té molt a veure l'esperit inconformista i, evidentment, abraçar una tècnica, un treball que requereixi tirar endavant i requereixi creativitat.
I Pep, també hi ha aquest element del compartir el que creem, provocar els altres, que això ho feu molt des de la Fura del Bau, i Idan parlava també del tema, i la Carme, de la comparació amb els animals. Però jo, per exemple, us ho pregunto als 3, comencem amb en Pep, el tema de, per exemple, un ocell que fa un niu o un ocell que canta. Això és creativitat des del vostre punt de vista?
No, això és emparellament. No, directament.
També s'ha de ser creatiu per això, no?
Sí, n'hi ha que, clar,
uns ho fan millor que
tien
uns
millor que
altres.
els altres per d'allò.
I qui guanya? El més creatiu?
Segurament. Però jo volia apuntar...
No subestimem potser els animals? Subestimem potser els animals? La pregunta també la llenço, després ja sortiran les respostes.
Jo volia apuntar una cosa abans, a part del cervell humà, el que ens fa molt humans són les pinces. Un antropòleg em deia el que ens ha fet evolucionar i ser humans són aquests dits que poden agafar coses i poden fabricar coses i poden ensenyar com es fabriquen a la nova generació. Tot això i la socialització, el poder de socialitzar ja no només emocions sinó socialitzar el menjar. Això va ser el que va també fer que l'Homo sapiens evolucionés. El Neandertal ja va evolucionar i després els sàpiens. Jo crec que, a part del cervell, que tenim molt guai, tenim un cos que tenim unes pinces que ens han ajudat molt a l'evolució, a fabricar altres instruments per tindre curasses, per anar més ràpids, per tirar coses lluny, per una quantitat de coses que si no haguessin sobreviscut. I aquestes mans són molt importants. M'agradaria apuntar això perquè m'ho va explicar un antropòleg i aquests es miren la humanitat a 500.000 anys vista, o sigui que són gent que t'explica d'on vens i qui ets. I m'agrada, bueno, això, a part d'això, de què anava la pregunta?
És que ja me l'has respost, la dels animals. Idan, scientifically, animals can create in some way.
No, I think so. Related to your question, so making a nest or singing, there are birds, that are singing very beautifully, but this is a replica of what they heard in the case of birds from their father. And it's innate, they learn what they heard, and so there is nothing really new. It's not a Beethoven or Mozart or Bach. It's a repetition of the father. So in that sense, I would not say that animals are creative if it's a replica of something they already saw. Creative is something, as we said, something new that was not there before. And the question...
Then the first one who did it...
He was, or it was, she was creative, but since then, yeah. But there are examples, although we like to think about ourselves as being something... Later we'll talk about machines that are creative, because there are machines that are creative today, but we'll talk about this when we talk about AI. But there are cases where you see animals, like there is a very well-known chimpanzee, woman chimpanzee, female chimpanzee, was very good both in drawings. She was a painter, and it was sold for, a lot of money, this painting of the chimpanzee Congo. And she was very good in new things. She was doing new things, action on the canvas. People like it a lot. They even call it, expressionism. They gave a title to her art. So that's one chimpanzee that was very creative. There is another chimpanzee. In Germany, there is a group of people that study the evolution of creativity and so forth, and they work with chimpanzees. There is one woman chimpanzee there, female, that is very good in solving problems. So, for example, speaking about hands and fingers, chimpanzees are also very good in fingers, and they can jump from one tree to the other, which we cannot do. So when they look at us, I'm sure that chimpanzees think that we are, very poor, at least in jumping. But this chimpanzee, this particular chimpanzee, has, for example, this very creative solution. So there is, I can show you a movie. If I had a YouTube, I will show you a movie. You take a little tube of glass and you put a peanut in the bottom of the glass. So she cannot put her finger because it's too deep. She cannot go to the bottom of the pipette. It's too deep. And she's very hungry. And it's the first time that she saw this problem. And you can see that this chimpanzee is sitting near the problem for about 10 minutes. And then, boom, there is a solution. She goes to she takes water in her mouth, and she split the water into the glass pipette, and it floats on top of it. The bottom floats on top, and then she takes it and eats it. That's a creative solution. I would say she's very creative. She didn't see it before. She does something original, and you can think that she's thinking how to solve the problem. She could also break it, but she did not. She used water. So that's a creative animal.
You want to talk about new technologies, about robots, i els robots els trobem a la cuina. Carme.
No, evidentment. Jo sovint penso, què donaria per veure la meva àvia amb un Turmix a la mà? I mira que és una eina ben senzilla, un Turmix, perquè, esclar, venim de no fa tants anys de tot fet a mà. Facilita la feina. La tecnologia realment és el que ens proporciona. El que passa és que hauríem de ser els humans, hauríem de ser prou savis perquè aquesta tecnologia, el resultat final que ens facilita aquell treball, no perdem qualitats. I aquí us posaré un exemple tan senzill com és un dels aliments més antics que hi ha per la humanitat, com és el pa. El pa, que és un producte que el forner sempre ha hagut de treballar de nits per
the bakers have always do during the night. There is a whole technology which allows to make some program flour, bread, stopping at temperature. So at a given moment, it goes into the oven, stops. There is a whole technology making it not so difficult for these professionals. What have we lost in the final result? I think that we have lost real bread. We have design breads which look very beautiful and shiny, but we're losing that bread that we remember that was just bread. We go in our restaurant, we did some cultural snacks, and we were inviting people from different professions. We had invited, for example, even war journalists to tell us how they eat, firefighters, and of course farmers and fishers. And once we invited a baker, and the question of all the young people said, what has happened with the bread? Now we have many tools. Why the bread doesn't get old as before? Before you didn't throw away the bread, but now we have a piece of bread. Selling more bread is gas stations. But bread, when it becomes older, it becomes either a weapon or a chewing gum. So the bread that was aging very well, what has happened? And he said, it has disappeared from modern bakeries an element. We lost this element, and the bread tastes different. And he says, the element is the chair. Yeah, the chair of the baker waiting for the bread, waiting for the second process to go into the oven again. So all this technology that help us to live better, it has to help us not to lose the final result of a beautiful bread. Some of them are a caricature. It's always a question of time. In fact, we use new technologies. You were talking about this device. Are you using artificial intelligence to make new creations, and how? Well, ChatGPT it's been here for 9 months, and it seems that we are talking about something that has been with us for years, but it goes very quickly, doesn't it? It goes so quickly. Now that we were speaking about the chair, it's fast and flying. Yes. In 9 months of life, 9 months of functioning, at the age of 7 months, it had 7 million visitors a day. Imagine. Therefore, these are tools that have entered in our society. And we are, for example, working with children, IA and drawings. And we are entering into IA that's going to do that. Let's see what happens. And how do you do it? Tell us about this project. How do you use IA for this with children? In which activity? Well, now we are just receiving drawings from the children in order to, well, you have to train the IA. In order for the IA to do what you want it to do, you have to enter some data. So it's learning, and it's also having some data, so it can inspire you or make you hallucinate. And the more data you have, the better it's going to work. Now, we are working on that, but of course, every day, I'm not looking on the internet. I tell ChatGPT to do it. She's faster than me, and I can ask her whatever. And sometimes she does it right, sometimes she doesn't. But mostly, she finds what I'm looking for much quicker than if I spend hours looking for someone explaining me how to do something. Therefore, this is a tool which is already in our homes, and it's a question of whether we know how to use it or not. If I think about war, I'm lost, because for sure they know, she knows everything about defense better than any human. In fact, many technologies have been developed during wartime and due to wars. But this is always going to be with us. It's like a rat that gets used to everything. And this is going to be one more tool for the creative. It's going to be fantastic for biologists. It's been fantastic for people who know multiple data and also many patterns in order to find new things. Well, this is a tool which will enable many things.
No. Do you think that it is possible that in the future it could be replicated?
So let me say something. We don't want to leave the brain, because one issue, again, we didn't touch fully what is unique about the human brain, but I would like to emphasize something that is very unique about our capability to imagine, to use imagery, to imagine things that are not in front of us. So for example, the prehistoric caves drawing, they didn't take the bison, in Altamira, in north of Spain, they didn't take the bison inside or the horses inside. They could imagine it from seeing it, and they took the image into their brain, and then they can recreate it on the canvas or on the stone. That's something very unique about the human brain, the capability to recreate physically something that is there. That's something very unique about human creativity. So, and the other thing, before going into machines, or the second thing I want to emphasize, when you ask people, and we should ask people, when do they have their creative moments? We all want to be more creative. So what is the moment? What makes you creative, personally? We can ask the chef and we can ask the artist. And when I interviewed many people about creativity, many creative people, Nobel laureates, people that invented new things, when you ask them, when did it happen? This aha, the moment of aha. They usually say that it was in the case, it was not in when their brain was not very focusing. It was before sleep, sometimes in dreaming, before waking. It was like in between states, not highly focused. This was like the seed of the idea. Of course, then they had to develop it and make sure that everything is okay. But the jump was this moment of uncertainty, not of uncontrol. And then they were developing. So I think this is two interesting aspects about the human brain.
We could ask them, no? Us passa això, Carme? Us passa això, Pep?
We could ask them, does it happen to you, Carme and Pep, that you get this inspiration? I am convinced that you are immersed in a research, torturing you, and often I have to tell you that dreaming, I have solved things that I could not solve. Just dreaming. Yes, I have found myself in that situation often. And related to these differences with what makes us human, we have to take into account that human beings inhabiting this planet, the only ones processing food are humans. Others eat what they are thrown at or what they find. But we've lost instincts, because those who have dogs know that if the dog does not feel well, by instinct, he can find that weed that will cure him. We've lost this capacity. We have to learn this, and we know what can cure us if this is the issue. Therefore, what makes us human is handling and cooking. And in this cooking, not only do we look for nutrition, but also ludic experiences, falling in love also. Falling in love through eating and emotions that can remind us other things. Karma. It is true that we speak about conscious eating. Maybe we want to recover that instinct and pay tribute to where the food comes from. What is the source of food? Of course, there is a movement, and you're probably familiar with it. Yes, and in front of these emotions, in front of food, the cardiologist Valentin Fuster, that has helped us to convince us of the goods of the Mediterranean diet, the first sense you use in front of food is sight. If it gives you pleasure, it makes you feel excited, you're already taking care of your health. Imagine if it's good and tasty. This is another pleasure, which can be luxurious. And if this nutrition is also good for you. Therefore, all our senses and the emotional ones, which belongs to the brain. And Pep, when do you feel inspiration comes? in your van. Sometimes you say that you had a brainstorming in your van with all the artists' ideas when you were traveling to the place where you are going to have a show on the street. I guess there are other moments as well. Yes, in the van many things happen because we had a very old van, and in order to get to places it was very difficult. But then it's an experience. Often, as Carme was saying, sleeping, you dream about the end of the show because you've been thinking about it for a long time. Everybody is telling you that that's not possible, and all of a sudden you're sleeping and you have a revelation and you wake up and you write it down, right? You cannot trust it. No, tomorrow I will remember. No, betrays you, the brain. You won't remember. So I sleep with a piece of paper next to me. You have to be able to write it down because it will betray you. You think you will remember and you don't remember. You don't. You have to write it down. Well, I have revelations. I want to sleep, and the following morning I remember. But not often. The truth is that I'm always referring to shows that are difficult to organize, and there's like a black hole in the end. Where are the balls going to fall? Which balls? Etc. And all of a sudden, you dream about the end of the show. It's possible because you've been thinking about it, and you've probably thought about this end very often, and you have not seen it because that happens. The brain plays with us. You go around so many things that all of a sudden you realize that you've passed by without realizing this aha moment that you were saying. You haven't had it, and all of a sudden, sleeping, you have a clear aha moment. There's nothing else. There are a few external stimulus, which are also pleasant when you are like sleeping and awake. It's what we call the restless sleep, right? Duerme vela in Spanish. You're awake and asleep. So now that you spoke about what makes us human from the artistic and creative point of view, let's go back to the question, can we replicate human brain?
Do you think it will be possible?
So the question is, what do you mean replicate? You know, we are first of all, let me say that I look at myself as a machine. I am a technology. My brain is a technology. It's a wonderful technology, miraculous technology, but there is no miracles outside. It's physics. So there are electrical, chemical signals, network of interactions between neurons, and eventually something comes out and I have an idea, I'm speaking, I know that I'm in Barcelona. This is a technology, it's a wonderful technology. And in many ways, so there are several projects who are trying to mimic, to simulate in a computer the details of the brain. It's called the Blue Brain Project, and it's in Switzerland, and a big project to try to simulate one by one, neuron by neuron, connection by connection, to try to simulate the whole brain. And it's progressing. But I agree with you that, first of all, we will not have a brain if there is no loop with the environment. It cannot be on a dish. The brain has to, in order to have a human brain that interactive and so forth, it has to have a body, senses, and it has to interact with the environment. Because yes, otherwise the brain is just a brain in a dish, doesn't mean that it is a brain. But there are attempts to replicate the brain either in simulation, in the model, in the computer, also to solve problem of diseases, to understand why we do not sleep sometimes or sleep, and so forth, why sometimes we have Parkinson. So you can replicate pieces of the brain and try to understand in the computer, very detailed model, a phenomena like Parkinson. So that's one direction. The other direction is to replicate the brain in hardware, in physical, not in the digital world, but in physical world, but using other material, not biology and membrane and so forth, but another material, it's called VLSI, very large integrated system to build a brain. And so for me, there is no question that we shall be able to replicate the brain. I'm already replicating the brain when I'm having kids. Yes, I'm replicating a brain by taking the DNA and making a brain. So I don't see, in principle, why can we not replicate the brain? The question is, why do you want to replicate the brain? We already have brain. Why do we want to replicate the brain? As I said, you want to replicate pieces of the brain to understand the biological brain. It's sometimes very hard to manipulate all the biological details, so you copy the brain into a computer or into a hardware, and you study there, which is easier, then you go back to the biology. That's one aspect. The other aspect that is, I think, very important for people to understand, that the whole AI world that we are part of is very much inspired by the brain itself. So, you know, the learning machines, ChatGPT, deep networks, all these artificial neural networks that are the basis for this AI, all of them are inspired by the brain. So the unit that is called artificial neuron has a 0-1 component, and the connection, which is called artificial synapses, have some similarities with the biological synapses because they can change, they are plastic. So we already build, in some sense, simplified version of the brain in order to solve problems like AI and so forth. Sometimes they surprise us. They are doing even better than us. These simplified machines can do something that sometimes are better than us. And then we use them to improve ourselves. So I think this interaction between my brain developing something similar to myself can teach me a lot about myself, this machine, but also can change myself because I'm using ChatGPT and robots and other things. So this is a loop between any technology, but this new technology is a very strong technology because it is very similar to me. So it's like a friend in some sense. It's a dynamical friend. It's not static. It's not a static technology. It's a dynamic technology that learns through experience. So in that sense, it's very unique, very strong, very new, powerful. Really changing the world.
I justament per això, perquè...
And because it's changing the world, probably we have to get to know this artificial intelligence in depth, and maybe this could change the way we create, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we live. Well, now they are making computer twins. Soon we will have twins from our body, not the brain, because it's more complicated, but we will be able to have a twin, lung twin, for example, or a femur, and you will be able to work with simulations of how your legs can run for 300 kilometers, how they can be destroyed, but you will be able to do it. All this will create a component between us, not only our body, but you can also go to what Carme was saying before. We don't find wheat helping us to cure us. Probably with artificial intelligence, we can find weeds and things that can help us. But whatever helps everybody, because everybody is unique, and there's this concept of artificial intelligence. But first, you will find your computational twin, and this will change the world. It will change the way we see things. Not only we see us, but we see nature and art, for sure. Because with these twin models, we can play often. We can see what happens. We can make simulations of what happens in our world, not only with us, but you can also recreate another twin and to work with someone else, such as actors and twin actors and actresses. It's endless, the possibilities of technology. So you are opening new fields of imagination, which are huge. And with this, I think that we will make a jump forward, sapiens sapiens, to another one. And this will be very helpful. Carme, how do you think this will change us? We've heard news related to artificial intelligence complaining the script writers and actors complaining because what an actor was saying is that artificial intelligence can reproduce a sentence but cannot provide us these emotions which help us humans. And this was the answer of person dubbing who was complaining about this. When we spoke about the brain, remember about the cow's disease? It was a problem related to the brain of the cows. Of course, we cannot go and buy cow brain for those who like it. I think that this is the huge value that it has for the brain. Emotions, being torture, we have problems, affects the brain, but radically changing the way we eat is part of the brain. They became crazy because they became omnivores and they were eating their descendants. Well, it's very important to take into account this memory chip that is with us, and this memory chip is related to health. What our ancestors ate, our Mediterranean ancestors were eating seasonally. They didn't have fridges. Therefore, be careful with what we eat, because what we eat can spoil our brain. I just thought about this. And now that you say that, Carme, in neuroscience, we collect the brain with the bowels, with the intestine. There is a connection. It influences our brain. Yes, the guts, the intestine. I think that we are what we eat. We are what we eat. We are what we feel, and we are how we move. And this is the result. This machine is working due to this. And this machine, when it runs many kilometers, such as the ones I've run, you have to make the brain work. Don't make it flat. Don't make your body flat. So this machine is tuned. And there are some foods that make us more creative. Foods that make us more creative. Well, I am convinced that eating something that makes you happy, if there is this line of luxurious, and luxurious can be a salad, can be a salad. We don't have to speak about foie gras or caviar. It can be that salad that has been grown, which is cracky, olive oils, or maybe virgin olive oil that smells like fruit. There is a touch of vinegar as well. This happiness, admiring, smelling, chewing, and swallowing stimulates creativity. But if this salad maybe looks very nice, from a healthy point of view, has all the safety controls with, for example, a vinaigrette, which provides a flat flavor, which does not stimulate you. You have to make more efforts to be creative. And more in the long term, if it happens every day, yeah, it makes you sad.
Just to add one point about creativity. Or what could be effective as making me more creative. So you mentioned before that you are trying to generate new tastes, something that I never experienced before, a new taste, something new to me. So when I taste it, or when I go to a visual exhibition and I see something that is new, that I never experienced before, this on its own, the fact that I now encounter something new taste, or something new picture, or some abstract, I don't know, Juan Miró painting that and I'm trying to interpret, this on its own, the fact that there is something new challenging me, it's challenging me. I need to solve it, I need to try it, I need to understand it, I need to think about it. This is a process of creativity for me. So in that sense, I can see a new food or a new image or a new combination of things that force me to try to understand it, and I myself become part of this new aspect. So that's one thing. But I want to comment something about creativity and emotions. Because there are creative machines. We shall give you an example of a very creative machine in a few minutes if you want. These machines do not have emotions, as much as we know. I don't think that ChatGPT has emotions on the cloud, but still it's very creative. So we don't need emotions to be creative, apparently. If we agree, we can discuss it, if these machines are really creative. But if we will agree that they are creative, then we can disconnect. I'm not saying that emotions are not useful for creativity in the case of human, but we can think of a machine that is not emotional and still no less creative than us. For example, there is a professor in Israel, a woman, that is, we thought that humor, sense of humor, joke, is very unique to human. No animal, as much as we know, has a sense of humor. Maybe we are wrong, but I don't think so. But anyway, there are computers today that are generating excellent jokes, very funny jokes. They see all the jokes in the world. They get a lot of data from the very good jokes that are considered to be very good, and they found the essence of what is a good joke. It has to be a punchline, it has to be short, it has to be like that, and they generate very funny jokes, very new funny jokes. So is the machine creative? Yes. If somebody would do this joke and I would know that it's a machine, I would say, wow, it's a very creative joke. So a machine can be creative. And there are other examples.
I understand that replicating and mixing, no?
Yes.
I should think.
Very interesting what you say, how creativity of some awakes the creativity of others. When you mention this example, and also what you were saying, Carme, about pleasure, when you eat, inspiring creativity and pain, and uncomfortness, or maybe not being able to understand the world in its complexity, generating pain sometimes. Does it provoke or generate creativity? Or inspire us? It can be very creative. You keep moving. There are many obsessive, compulsive artists, and machines are not obsessive and compulsive, are they? Machines can be compulsive, yes. They look patterns like crazy, and they see whether they're adequate to what you told her to do. Machines can be very obsessive, and they go at the speed which is 10 million faster than us. That's why they have these results, because they're obsessed. And in front of this reality, what worries you nowadays of today's world?
I am optimistic in general. It's interesting that you only raise now, because whenever I speak about AI and the new world, people are very worried that the machine will replace them. It will be Frankenstein, the golem. Somebody will take, and what do we do with ourselves? The machine can do everything. It can drive, it can do jokes, it can solve problems, it can write software. These machines can, ChatGPT can write software, you can try, and we don't need anymore to program. So what will happen to us? What will happen to us? So people are very worried, and there are even signatures by people who developed the field. Jeff Hinton. Jeff Hinton is the one who really developed the idea of deep neural networks, which is, as I said, the basis for all this AI, is these deep networks that are doing all this computation and learning and so forth. He signed against distributing ChatGPT and others because this is dangerous and it will replace us, and it's uncontrolled, and especially the fake news. This is a worry, that these machines can generate fake things. And because they can be very convincing, they use language, they can repeat, and they know how to argument, this machine can really fake you. Politicians can use it. Trump can use it. Bibi Netanyahu can use it. They can use these machines. So that's worrisome. Where is the truth? Where is the truth and what is the fake? How do you control fake news via the machine? That's my main worry. The rest of it, the fact that they will replace us, that there will be no job here, I trust humans to find alternative for themselves. I'm sure that there will be these machines, so I look at them as my companion, as my collaborator. I can use ChatGPT, as you said, to increase my creativity, and if it will do something, then I will use my brain to do something else. So, GPS replaced my capability, which is built in the hippocampus, to navigate. So GPS is doing it for me. So I'm using this area to do something new, because I need to learn all the time something new. So I'm not worried about competition. I worry about facts, manipulation. So some governments could use this machine to manipulate us. That's my worry. So we need to make a space that is clear that this is the truth, and the rest you may trust or not. But the truth is here. So we need to put the truth somewhere. And it should be agreed that this is the truth and the rest is whatever.
És el gran repte d'avui al dia, no? La verificació.
It's the huge challenge also, checking, and humans can manipulate also, but machines make us question about what's truth and what's false. Do you coincide with this worry, or do you have any other worries related to the world we live in and how the human being can be affected by these new technologies, such as creativity and certain values, which can be also affected? Or are you optimistic? As Idan, I'm very optimistic. I think machines will help us live better. I hope they pay taxes like us. And some workshops have cancelled 300 men, and the machine is not paying taxes, and those men were paying taxes. So we should tax the use of machine also, and technology.
It's called Taxing Robots, by a lawyer that is an expert, a Swiss lawyer, expert on taxing. You know, how do you tax to make, governments should get money from you, but you can tax robots. And the whole book is about how to tax robots. And then you don't need to pay taxes. You can go and do your art and feel emotions.
Abans de proposar, si voleu... Sí.
No, perdona, que...
What we were saying about machines paying for taxes, the question is what will we do with the human being when he will not longer have to work? What will we do? Because if you have to work 1 hour a week, and that's all, to check on the machine and go on enough, what will we do with our spare time? Well, artificial intelligence will tell us incredible stories, and we will learn. Our brain will use some percentage of its activity and capacity. I don't know how much we use now. And I think that in order to speak about this, I think that, and I believe that machines will do all the work that we don't want to do, and maybe we can have 5, 6, 7 lives, because we will have time to make use of all of them. And I think this is being optimistic. Of course, I'm afraid. And this is the optimistic part. The pessimistic is that artificial intelligence and countries know that if you have better weapons, a moment will come that you will fight me. You will come here and you will conquer my country. And in the United States, China are working with IA in order to have the best possible weapons in case there's a war, or being able to confront each other knowing they will win. And this is what happened with the Second World War. When America intervened, they knew that this technology will be used to destroy Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they didn't have it. So this has been escalating, and artificial intelligence at wartime are working on this, and I'm afraid of this. More than the fake news, maybe. Fake news, whether it's true or not, bad luck. But 200 artificial intelligences throwing shit at each other, it will be a bad consequence for everybody.
Abans de passar algunes preguntes, que em sembla que algú vol preguntar.
Before giving the floor to the
Què et
audience,
preocupa i què recomanaries?
Karma, what worries you? What would you recommend to new generations? Well, of course, what's been placed on the table, even if we don't have a table, well, let's imagine this table, these little tables. I'm worried about everything. And on the other hand, I think that they will contribute with comfort. Not long ago, at home, we have a caregiver for my mom, 24 hours a day. And I was telling my husband, we will have a robot. We won't have a caregiver. We'll have a robot, I'm convinced. So there are some tasks of paying attention to someone who will need them for 24 hours. What I'm worried about is that we don't get used to this artificial intelligence and we're happy with just anything. I'm worried about this. I'm very interested in technology, helping us to be better, working less, I'm interested, but being happy with just any result, I don't like it.
Sembla que algú volia preguntar, oi que sí? És així?
Any question?
Algú vol plantejar una pregunta? Un momentet que us porten...
Microphone, please.
Sí.
Yes.
M'he referit una mica al que
Well, what Pep was saying,
temps,
these times that we're living, leisure and creativity, I think that one of the things we have not mentioned is that within this creativity, new universes are going to be created. We speak about the metaverse, so in a way, we open a new universe to which we can access. And on the one hand, is this contemplated with this time that we will have, and how our brain answers in an environment which is not related to what we're used to. All of a sudden, we will appear in another universe.
That's a very good question, and you have here an expert, Mel Slater, who is really exactly an expert on this interaction between these metaverse, avatars, alternative world, if you want to call it like that, and us. And he's working with Mavi Sanchez near him. That's exactly the, oh sorry, she's here. And so Mel and Mavi are working on the interaction between the metaverse, this virtual reality that is, so to speak, a new world, the metaverse, and the brain. And maybe they can say much more because they are doing it on a daily basis, but how can you internalize this very new world or interact with it and become part of it rather than alienate it, you know, like you mentioned. I need to ask you what will happen if a machine will print all your food and it will be creative. What will happen to you then? But we can discuss it later. So maybe Mel and Mavi can say something about that. How does the brain integrate a completely new world with avatars? Because that's your topic. That's your research topic here in Barcelona.
Well, very briefly, my view is that the virtual world should just become integrated in our life, together with artificial intelligence. So in the future, well, even in the present now, we say, okay, I'm going to this place, I'm going to that place in the real world, but we'll also be saying, no, I'm going to go to this other place, but that happens to be a virtual world, and is populated by artificial intelligence characters who help you achieve your tasks and so on. In fact, here we have the leader of a project called Guest XR, which is a European project which is actually looking at that issue about how artificial intelligence can help humans achieve their goals within virtual meetings, helped by avatars, helped by other virtual characters, artificial intelligence, and so on. So I just think it would become integrated in real life, bearing in mind the dangers, of course, that other people have raised. But let's just talk about the positive tonight.
I wanted to ask a quick question to the artist, to the creative, and to the scientist about, we've said that creativity is what makes us human, but do you believe that the spark of creativity is curiosity? Animals are also curious. right? But they're not creative. Machines will be creative? Or will they have curiosity in the future? They're creative, but are they going to be curious?
First of all, there are curious robots. It depends how how do you define curiosity. But there are groups of people all over the world that they understand the curiosity is part of exploring the world. You need to try to understand. You go here, you go there, you go below. You try to find what's happening. And so curiosity is part of really capability to internalize the world. And you're right, animals are curious. You can see little dogs going here and there, but they don't create something new. And as I said, we don't know why the brain of the dog, although it's curious, is not creative. And our brain, which is both curious and also creative. So I started to say something about the uniqueness of our brain. But anyway, but people are realizing that in order for the robot to start to understand the world and maybe eventually become creative, it has to be curious. There are several groups in the world that are working specifically on curious robots, that are looking at new things, that are trying to connect things in the environment, curious robots. You have first to define what exactly that you mean by curiosity. But anyway, robots could become curious. I'm a curious robot.
Tu sí, però els robots no els dius...
You are, but the robots, unless you tell them what to do, they're programmed. They're not robots looking and searching where you have not told them to search. Either they mirror another robot, or a robot will not have the curiosity that the human being has, will not look wherever you have not told him to look. That's the way it is. And deep learning, they're trying through movements, learning from each other. And this is one of the most advanced things. You don't have to tell them, but being curious is something different. The algorithm of curiosity, I don't know. I think that this curiosity goes hand in hand of not being conformist and also the need of achieving an objective all together. And I think that they are all together. And I think this robot will have curiosity, non-conformity, and also the need to solve something. My apologies, you have spoken about machines and whether we can make them more intelligent or no, more creative, but I'm interested in something else. Can we make our brain more creative? Can we manipulate it with a computer interface? Do we know where creativity is born, inspiration, and are we able to search for tools in order to be more creative? You have spoken before, but I think that during dreams and when we are distracted, sometimes we are more inspired and we create. And we'd like to know that if I want to make scientists that are here in the room to be more creative, how can I do it? This is something that you work on every day.
All of us would like to be more creative, no matter what you do. Yeah, no matter what you do. So that's a very good question, of course. What are the circumstances? Where should I put myself into circumstances? So Virginia Woolf said that she is most creative in a particular room for myself. She has this little book about a room for myself. This is a place where she takes herself either physically or by imagining. She goes to this room. And this room is a comfort place. It's a place where she can imagine and she can do whatever she wants. Marquez, you know, Marquez, the writer, he went into, physically, he blocked himself by 7 doors, physically. He blocked himself by 7 doors. He goes to a very isolated place where he become completely crazy. He says, nobody looks at him, but he can imagine himself as an animal. He can become naked. He's doing anything he wants. He's crazy. And that's where he said the ideas for 100 years of solitude or books of that sort comes from. My own feeling, and I'm working very hard on that it's, if you want to create kids, children, that are very creative, you really should expose them early on into an environment that is very rich. For example, science. I mentioned the other day, we had a talk recently about the fact that we like to categorize the world. So they are the artist, I'm the scientist, he's the chef, and this is that. But Leonardo da Vinci did not know about this distinction. He was both an architect and a mathematician, and a painter, and an inventor. Every one of us could be a little bit of Leonardo da Vinci, but this requires this breadth. So you want this interaction, like maybe we do here. You don't want to be only neuroscientist. You want to be neuroscientist and also interact with artists. And you want to be an economist, but you also want to interact with scientists rather than being one thing. So I think the interaction between fields, you should really read a very good book. It's called The Two Cultures. It's a very nice lecture from '59 by C.P. Snow, who wrote that in order to be creative, you need to, the friction between something you know and something that you don't. But in that sense, you have to be courageous. You have to meet the other, different culture, different way they speak and so forth, and you have to try to this interaction. I really strongly believe that interaction, especially for scientists, who tend to close themselves within their own language, and very technical language, and they are very happy with themselves, and they are doing wonderful things. But I think they could be much more interactive and much more creative if they will go outside to people that speak differently, think differently. For example, artists. These artists know a lot about the brain. They don't know, like myself, about synapses and mechanism, but if you succeed to do good food, it means that you know something about the human brain. Otherwise, it won't work. So they know something, but they speak different language. They don't say, oh, this is electrical activity and all that. But if we speak enough, this interaction will generate both creativity in this side and also creativity in that side. So I think we should meet different cultures on a daily basis, not being afraid that you don't understand the other.
Jo penso que un creatiu, una persona que per al seu treball necessiti aquest pas més, aquest afegit, aquest valor més de la creativitat, ha de cultivar una actitud positiva.
So once again, it doesn't translate anymore, so we don't understand.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Now I can.
Okay, sorry. I think I had it on the other channel, my apologies. I think that if your professional life deserves this added value of creativity, to move forward, you have to be able to grow a positive attitude, an enthusiastic attitude, enthusiastic in order to understand the world, to discover the value of things. For people, an attitude which is the opposite, negative, you don't like anything, well, I think that it will be difficult. Therefore, taking care of this childish spirit, I tried to caress that girl who was enthusiastic about everything, who used to play, and I think that helps me to go on a day-to-day basis. I think that it depends on the environment. If the environment asks you to be creative, every day is like a muscle that you're building. And every day it becomes easier and easier. And you don't know why you make quicker associations and things happen. And also, if your environment says, well, this is like being surrounded by people who are a son of a bitch, you will be a son of a bitch. If you are surrounded by people who are very nice, you will be very nice. If you are surrounded by an environment not only of people, but environment asking you to be creative, this is what happens to Carme and many chefs. And the environment is asking them to not to repeat next year, to look for other things. And this stimulates not only her, but her environment and her team, meaning that all those people, not only Carme, but everybody, are creative, even the person washing the dishes. Why don't we do it like this or like that? If you are in an environment where one is the director and they don't allow you to create anything, then you go somewhere else, because then your creativity will be his or her creativity. And if he's a dictator or someone who only listens to himself, probably there's nothing to do. I don't know if that happens in other concepts of excellency. And we have to be able to maybe propose new things. And in other places, it's just the opposite. And you cannot do with what you have. It depends on the environment, and it depends on your survival at a specific place, whether you have to be creative or not. And that makes you be creative. In the Fura, we have to be flexible. You create an idea, and friction was very important, friction within the environment of the Fura until everybody liked it. And the fact that everybody liked it was very difficult. But thanks to that, there were things which were very special, because out of 8-9 people who had to say that they like it, well, we were very critics. And if you are in an environment like this, the daily effort of selling your story to the others makes you become very creative. If you don't have this environment, it will be very difficult.
Idan, parlaves dels infants I també hi havia...
Idan, you were speaking about children, and you are also... No, sorry, you were speaking about this idea of teaching children to be more creative. Technologies can make it very difficult, because these weeks we were speaking about the fact that children should not be looking at the screens from 0 to 3 because it limits their language or makes them not to develop their language or their thinking the way it will be optimum. We have seen that language at young age cannot be developed like before, and language is thinking. What do you think about this reality related to this question of how learning to be creative and how to teach new generations to be creative, living with these technologies? And sometimes if we use it well, it can be very positive, but at this young age, for example, at Silicon Valley, there are technological professionals, and many professionals take children to schools where they don't use technology, where they handle and manipulate. They have the old blackboard, they make drawings. Yes, they work with things. I think that one of the negative parts of so many machines, I have a survey made by schools asking the children what they want to be when they're older, and the one who has won, they all want to be influencers, and that's terrible, terrible. So we lose quality. What is the price that quality and creativity can pay? Creativity of our humanity, because technology has always been a double-sided knife. And intelligence, what makes us human, is not to be cut by this knife that can cut you. Difficult with children.
Idan, what do you think about it?
I agree that it's a big issue now, because we are in transition time. We have to learn how to adapt ourselves to this new coming world. It's not the old world anymore. It's fast, very fast changes. It's exponential change, as you said. Within 7 months, there is this new ChatGPT 4. Soon there will be ChatGPT 5. It will be. We have to prepare ourselves, and we as adults, we don't know really how to. Ourselves have to go through a process of understanding how to bring about kids that will live in a very different world than ours. So within 20, 30 years, it's not going to completely not look the same. In many, many ways, there will be robots going on. My own brain will be a digital afterlife. There will be so many, there will be genetic manipulations and an extension of life. It's going to be a completely different world. And so we ourselves are under, I'm talking about the educators, teachers, policymakers. They have to learn themselves to adapt to this changing world. And so I don't have a solution, but one thing I know for sure, these kids will have to be extremely flexible Because unlike in our world where we try to hold to something, and you can see what happens with these politicians, Trump and others, are trying to hold to the old, because that's safe. You already know what was there. They are afraid of the new world. But it's coming anyway. You cannot hold it. You cannot stop it and say, the brain is creative, it developed all these machines. They will take over in many ways. There is no way to stop it. You can stop it locally for a few years. So we really need to develop these kids, the whole notion of profession. It's not going to be, I'm a banker from here to the end of my life. No. Every 10 years it will change. I will become, my kids will be both a scientist, and 10 years later they will be chefs, and 10 years later they will be, I don't know, belly dancers. So we have to develop the concept for this young generation that their own thing, they are not something that is fixed. They should be very clear that they are going to be, it's very confusing, I don't know how to make it, that they should be extremely flexible in really understanding that today is not tomorrow, that 10 years from now, and I can see already sign of it, that at least in Israel, every 10 years these young people change profession. They go here, they do this, and then they go there, they do something else. Some of them don't even need to learn, to go to the university. It's going to be a different world. We have to get used to it. We made this world so different. It's our responsibility to some sense. But flexibility is the key word for me. Flexibility.
Flexibility and creativity. Creativity, la creativitat de viure.
And creativity to live, right? The creativity is not only art, but also to adapt to the changes in life and the world. Yes, adaptation. To adapt ourselves, yes. I wanted to say that there are those people who take screens away from children is because almost everything that is done is in order for you to be in front of the screen, looking at the screen. And they play with others sometimes, right? They play with other children at home, everyone at home, and they get together. Yes, but in fact you are there with your screen. Even if you see people, you are alone. So if we create socializing technologies, which say that you look at some instructions, but everything happens outside, and you have to play with real people, well, this can be better. And you know that they have to be socializing, and technology should look for the socialization. We use the telephone so people can create choreographies, for example, and you're here, and you're maybe calling people, and you see other things, and all of a sudden you receive some instructions, and you are organizing a show with 100 people. So this is more or less changing the way we use technology in order to be super individualistic. So if we work on technologies that can have this idea of socializing, what happens physically, if they provoke us to be closing itself, it's better not to have it. Any other question? Or we should call it a day. Hello, I just want to make a comment which is related to the debate, and maybe Carme will be interested if she's not familiar with the example, and it's related to the talk. And I think that maybe 50 years ago, the title of the talk, instead of creativity is what makes us human, will be culture. And scientists who have been studying whether other non-human animals had culture in an experiment. In general, what happened, they had some peanuts, which were part of the study also, and they were dirty. It was very similar example to the one you were explaining. A chimpanzee had the idea to clean them with water, and the chimpanzees were near the sea, and the peanut was clean, but they realized it was salty. And from there, this population of apes started to eat salty peanuts because they realized they were very nice. And it's contradicting some of the things that have been said, that gastronomy is specifically human. And when this article was published, well, they started to go against the scientific thinking of the times. Culture was exclusive of the human being. So that was the example I wanted to share. And then I have a question for Carme. You've said things that are not contradictory, but when you said that I would have liked my grandmother to have a blender, and at the same time, how technology can help us to be more creative or diverse. And at the same time, seeing what we eat now, this example of bread, which is worse maybe, in general. And I would like to know, what is your prognosis for the food of the future? Yesterday I was with friends at a restaurant, and many of them have not tasted fried banana. How do you see the future? Will be more diverse, less? Diverse, yes, because we have become global without even realizing. First, because we are receiving different cultures which contribute with changes. In our day-to-day, we're eating gazpacho, and we've already ate gazpacho, and with many families, I think it was in the 50s and 60s, and they brought this culture which is part of ours. And I think it was by the end of the 19th century, Italian chefs brought some cannellonis, and now they're Barcelonian cannellone. They traveled from Italy. So now there's like a flow of change that reaches us, and we find a market. There are yuca, for example, now, and banana macho in a natural way. But we also travel to discover new cultures. And we receive some visits from other parts of the world in order to get to know our culture. And I think this is fantastic. But in this global world, we have to be aware of the fact that we have inherited a cultural heritage, which is very interesting, which is gourmet, healthy, and it makes us one of the oldest persons in the planet, so it's so interesting to discover, to taste. But let's not abandon ours, because some nutritionists said that the memory chip that we have in our organism means that this life and health will be with us related to what we ate. So let's enjoy, let's discover, let's taste, let's eat, but let's never abandon this diet. Of course, we have to face the future. Many people have made experiments asking artificial intelligence to make a menu for a center of a place, summer, with this stuff, so they can carry it out, and it makes a menu which is incredible, what they offer, attractive, related to the place, and the execution is adapted to the staff, etc. So they do have data. The artificial intelligence has data to act. Therefore, I think it will be very useful to be aware of the fact that cooking is interesting when behind there is a first productive sector. I'm not talking about poetry. Some farmers work on the land, fishers who continue to be working also. Unless we consume and buy, we will lose this, and of course we will continue to eat. The humanity had never eaten so much. It's not a problem. We wake up and say, what are we going to have for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner? There is no problem, what will I find for lunch? Therefore, within this wealth of discovering, let's be smart, let's don't lose our nature, culture, which makes us human, and let's enjoy the world. So we finish here because it's 1 hour and a half and we have to stop. Nothing else, right? Because we call it a day.
Did you ask me if I want to say anything, or what was the question?
If you want to say something.
If you want to add something to what Carme has said.
I want to complement that because I'm thinking if we shall have a lot of times free, because other machines will do the work for us, what shall we do with our time? And you mentioned a lot about emotion, or live well and be happy and so forth. I think our emotional world is underdeveloped. We are not well connected to our emotions. You know, and I can tell you from the brain point of view, everything, most of what we do is under the sea. You know, I'm conscious and I can talk now and I'm aware of things, which is a very small part of all the other activity. And much of it is emotions. I feel anger, I'm worried, I don't know, I long to somebody, I'm sad. Everything is happening inside, but I'm not well connected to it. Because of time and because of fear and all that. I think if we should have much more time and well educated to interact introspectively with ourselves, the world will be much more emotional in that sense, because we shall know our emotions, what makes us happy, what is the intricacy between me and somebody else, what's happening now, and you know, this introspection. So I think we are, hopefully, the technology will free us to go into the deeper aspect of the brain, which is the emotional part.
La interacció amb l'exterior, la interacció amb
interacting with this interior world that makes us discover through what we like, what motivates us, and our talents. And this is related to our authenticity and capacity. Right? We can conclude it with this, right? I like being with people.
per descobrir els talents.
To discover talents. It's an important aspect that can give us tools to relate to others better. Introspection, yes.
Ser introspectiu amb algú.
I like to be introspective with somebody.
Ostres, perquè és més ric. És més ric que estar tu sol donant-te la tabarra.
It's better than being alone.
Thinking about myself. Acaba sent malaltís. En canvi, si parlem tu i jo...
But if we speak one to another, we can enjoy. But we have to have as much time as other people to have more time to enjoy. To have more time to enjoy life. How to enjoy, what do we like, etc. For me, it's much richer to be able to share it with all of you than thinking inside my brain whether I like it or not. At moments I like everything, at moments I don't like anything. Introspection has always made me think.
Però poqueta.
So in the future, you can do it in the future with avatars. You will be able to interact with avatars. I mean, these people will be, some of them will be avatars, some of them will be real. Not necessarily human.
És que s'estan equivocant amb el metaverse.
They're making mistakes with the metaverse. They've seen it won't work if everything is digital. Now the metaverse is starting to have more physical sensors, more physical interaction with other people. There will be some metaverse and real aspects, because we have seen, well, first, that when we are spending time in the metaverse, you feel like vomiting, depending what the metaverse is provoking. And then, because socializing is very important in the human brain, it's very important. This is something we've been doing for many generations, and breaking this will be very difficult. And maybe we can do it, but not now. Not now, not even in the next 500 years. 500 years. Minimum. This idea of the digital man in the metaverse will take 600 years to be applied. So you cannot be here ever.
It will be much faster than you think, but it's not either or. You will have both the metaverse and us. It will be a continuum between a physical human and a digital human. And then you can choose if you want one day to have an avatar with you, or a real woman, or both. It's not either or.
Jo no deia una altra dia.
No. I was saying that we have to be digitals. We will be digital at a given moment. So the whole humanity has to be much more digital than physical. And machines are digital. We will be more and more digital. our life goes more towards the digital. I have many friends that I've never seen, I've never touched, but I've worked with them. We've been doing projects. They exist. But like Laponia exists, I know it exists. So what's digital is part of our lives. But being totally digital, like some machines, we would take time. More and more questions are created with a debate like this, and it's nice to have these interactions, making us think. And to do research. Thank you very much, the three of you.
Tot cap a dintre, cap a fora, compartint, sobretot compartint, que això estem...
We all agree that we have to share. Thank you very much, Pep, Carme, and Idan.
En thought-provoking debate, us agraïm que hàgiu vingut i hàgiu compartit aquest...
Thank you very much for sharing this moment. Thank you.
Hi ha un pica-pica.
And you can have something to drink now outside to celebrate. Thank you. Creativity, etc. and life.
Gràcies.